And welcome to one of the destinations in college football. A November late afternoon in the Grove. It is senior day here at Ole Miss. And the #1 team in the country comes to visit Houston Nutt's Rebels. The Mad Hatter is in town as Louisiana State University comes calling. Welcome to the SEC on ESPN. And welcome to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. It is rocking. #1 LSU taking on Ole Miss. Hi again, everyone. I'm Bob Wischusen. Rod Gilmore and Janine Edwards will join us in just a moment. And the reason Rod is here tonight is because Bob Davie is not. It's a night for congratulations and prayers going out to Coach Davie. First of all, the congratulations. He was named the head coach of New Mexico this past week. So, Coach, congrats on your new job. He also is dealing with the illness of his father, and he is at his bedside. So, Coach, not only our congratulations, but also our prayers go out to you and your family. Hopefully, Coach Davie is able to watch right now. Also, we know there will be a new coach here at Ole Miss next year. Houston Nutt still has control of his team, though, as he has suspended Randall Mackey, his quarterback, and Jeff Scott, arguably his best playmaker on offense for tonight's game, a violation of team rules. As we welcome in Rod Gilmore, and Rod, not the best way to start for Ole Miss, sitting down 2 offensive starters against arguably the best defense in the nation tonight.
Yeah, and a great secondary. That's where the defense begins, because they have 2 lockdown corners in Morris Claiborne and Tyrann Mathieu. They make it possible for the rest of the defense to shut down the running attack.
Here come the Tigers. Feels like Tiger Stadium here, at least in the certain corners. There are a lot of LSU fans in Oxford, and they will find out shortly that Jordan Jefferson will be their quarterback tonight.
Yeah, my sense is that LSU is thinking down the line. They need more offense. They need better quarterback play, and Jarrett Lee struggled against Alabama. Jefferson gives them a little bit more athleticism, and they're going to need scoring when they get to Arkansas and Georgia.
Janine Edwards is down on the field with the head coach, Les Miles.
Coach, what factored into your decision to start Jordan Jefferson tonight?
Well, we just think he's earned it, and we're going to look to get Lee involved early as the situation of the game would call.
Under what circumstances will we see Lee come in?
I think as early as the 3rd series.
Okay, now, you told us last night you're now a believer in this Rebels-Tigers rivalry. In your opinion, why have these games been so close lately?
I'm not saying that at all. I believe that this football team is challenged by this the approach that the Rebels have taken to this game. So, yeah, we're ready for rivalry play.
Okay. Have a good game, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Janine, thanks very much. Moments ago on senior night, the Rebels take the field here in Oxford. The emotions, I would assume, Rod, as a former player, if you were in that locker room, your head coach has already been dismissed, you know that, but it's senior night. You're playing against the #1 team in the country. What went on, you think, a moment ago inside there?
Well, it's pretty emotional. I mean, this is your last time with your teammates as a senior. It's the last time you come out of that locker room at your home stadium. You're feeling all of that. You want to play well, and you're on national television. You want to play well for family and friends, so it's a very emotional night for these guys.
And for Ole Miss, with the suspension of Randall Mackey, they have a quarterback change of their own tonight. So Zach Stout, welcome to the #1 defense, arguably, in the nation.
Yeah, there's an easier way to play, and it's not coming against this defense. Stout will be more of a drop-back passer. You'll have less running from the quarterback position tonight than Ole Miss normally gives you.
And Janine is standing by with Houston Nutt. Janine?
Coach, as you've taken the pulse of your team this week, how would you assess them in light of the distractions over the last 10 days or so?
I think it's much better than last week for sure. I thought they gave us a tremendous effort this week, good focus, so I'm hoping we can take it to the field.
Now, was Iowa State's upset of Oklahoma State brought up at all today?
I had a few guys mention it to me. They did. They watched the game last night. They watched it, and it encouraged them a little bit.
Now, as you arrived here at the stadium today, what were your emotions as you prepare for your final home game?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've loved this place. We've done a lot of good things here, and I tell you, it's going to be memorable, and hey, we enjoyed that last walk through the Grove.
Have a great game, Coach. Thank you.
All right, Janine, thanks very much. LSU won the toss. They'll take the football to start the second half, so they'll be kicking off to Ole Miss. And as we said, this is a team that travels pretty well, as there was purple and yellow everywhere we looked all through Oxford over the past couple days.
Incredible environment here tonight. This stadium is packed. There are colors, red and blue on one side, purple and gold. Other areas, it is really fantastic.
James Hairston will kick it off for LSU, and Philander Moore is back deep to receive for the Rebels, and it is a Rebels team offensively that has struggled mightily so far this season. This will be Moore. Finds a seam and gets to the edge. Good return by Moore. All the way out close to the 40-yard line before he's bumped out. Morris Claiborne made the stop on special teams. So the challenge for Zach Stout last year at Iowa Western threw 18 touchdown passes, but this is far from a junior college matchup tonight.
This is not Iowa Western. This is the most confident defense in college football. On the field before the game, that defense, those secondary players are intimidating and cocky.
Great field position, though, to start for Ole Miss. Stout, a bubble screen, and it's trapped. He underthrew Brassel. It'll be 2nd down and 10. Not exactly a confidence boost to start for the junior starting quarterback.
Yeah, you want to give your quarterback something easy to get the confidence going, and that's about as easy as you can get it. And that one didn't work. So expect there to be nerves for him early on here until he gets hit a little bit.
That's Brandon Bolden in motion. Stout on 2nd down and 10. Outside to Bolden, and he dropped the ball. Well, when you're 2-8 and 0-6 in your conference, those are the kind of plays that are made. As we take a look at today's Ole Miss impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Well, a young team and a young receiver outside. Dante Moncrief, really good, 4 touchdown receptions this season. He's going to have to make big plays since the running attack is not what it used to be tonight. Brandon Bolden will have to try and pick up some of the running attack because they don't have Jeff Scott in there. He's suspended, and you know about the Honey Badger on defense. Talk about impact player. He has a knack for getting to the football.
4-man rush coming for LSU. They float one out in the middle of the field, and it's intercepted. Picked off by Ron Brooks. Down the sideline, and LSU on defense scores the game's first points.
Well, 3rd and long, they were able to get into their nickel package. They bring Brooks in, and the young quarterback, inexperienced, puts one over the middle, and you see Brooks coming from the left to the right, picking it off. That's just ill-advised.
You had to wonder what he was looking at as Ron Brooks, now with 2 interceptions this season, both pick sixes, and LSU has the lead. Welcome back to Oxford. Already 7-0 LSU as Rod Gilmore, the Bayou Bengals, score on defense.
Yeah, 3rd down long situation, nickel package. You'll see Brooks right here. He's just going to take advantage of the fact that there's an overthrow over the middle, instinctive as he comes back in. He's just playing soft zone in there. A poor pass by Stout over the middle, and Brooks to the house after that, escorted by the Honey Badger.
That's the 15th interception by the LSU defense so far this season. Offensively, they've only thrown 3. They are now on the season plus 16 in the turnover ratio.
Well, yeah, and with a new quarterback and a new running back, you can't afford to give up points that way.
Last night, though, you were in Ames. You would be the giant killer again if it happened tonight.
What a crazy sight that was last night.
Chaos has been tossed into the BCS based on last night's result. Moore on the return, and this time he won't even make it out to the 15-yard line. So terrible field position for Ole Miss as Russell Shepard was downfield to make the stop for LSU on special teams.
Well, the problem for Ole Miss right now is that nothing went well for Stout that opening drive. So he's not any more confident now than he was before the game. As a matter of fact, he probably feels worse right now because of that opening series.
On first down from inside the 15, they're trying to keep it on the ground with Bolden, and he may have picked up a half yard. Brandon Bolden was supposed to start the season as the go-to back for Ole Miss, and in the opener against BYU, he suffered a fractured foot and has been in and out of the lineup all year, and now he is down again on senior night. Brandon Bolden injured in the opener and possibly injured in his senior year finale here in Oxford.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Hampton Hotels. At Hampton, we love having you here. And in part by Discover Card. It pays to switch. It pays to discover.
Sunset from the balcony of the Lafayette Courthouse in the heart of downtown Oxford. A terrific scene, and a terrific scene tonight here at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, but it's been that kind of a year for Ole Miss. 0-6 in the SEC, 2-8 on the season, and Brandon Bolden, their senior running back, taken off with an ankle injury a moment ago, and now it's second down and 10. Stout out of the shotgun. Pretty well protected, fires one to the sideline. That's a gain of maybe 4 yards. Burbia Allen makes the reception, and Bolden being worked on over on the sideline as his ankle got caught underneath Kendrick Adams and Sam Montgomery.
Yeah, if you take a look at the way he goes down here with a couple of guys on him, including Montgomery and Adams, you can see it was that left ankle, left leg.
Third down and 6. Ole Miss trying to keep the drive alive. 4-man rush. Stout up the sideline, climbing the ladder to make the catch is Vincent Sanders. And that was a pretty confident throw.
Not only a confident throw, a confident play, and Brooks thought he had another pick and misjudged it. Yeah, now watch as you see this throw here. He hangs in here, throws it really firmly, but Brooks comes in, thought he was going to have a shot at it. Sorry, that's not Brooks, that's actually Taylor who came in. But they have to make plays down the field because LSU is really jumping all the short routes.
Enrique Davis up the middle, and he might have fallen forward for about 1.5 yards, maybe 2. There's a flag down on the play as well. Kevin Minter was first there for LSU. That was a huge third down conversion, though, for Ole Miss to turn it over on their first possession of the game for a pick 6. And then get that kind of a third down conversion. That's a confidence boost.
Grasping the face mask. 46 on the out defense. Penalty 15 yards. First down.
And they get Minter for a face mask as we check in with Janine.
Well, Bob, you know, Les Miles says he can kind of relate to the situation that Houston Nutt is in. He called it an impossible situation. He remembers the season at Oklahoma State when they only won 4 games on the year. He said the most important piece is how do you want to be remembered? It's personal. He said that's the most difficult piece because without the view of a bowl game, it becomes very difficult to motivate a team.
Well, Janine, one thing we expect to be motivation is tonight on national television against the top team in America. And Enrique Davis goes up the middle for about 1.5 yards to make it second down and long route. That was the point you made before the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you want to do. You want to find a way to motivate your players, particularly when you're losing your head coach. And I think the Houston Nutt situation is kind of odd. You know, you think about a guy who went to back-to-back Cotton Bowls just a couple years ago, 2 losing seasons, and they're done with them. It just seems like there's got to be more to the story.
5 wide on second down and a long 8. Close to 9 for Ole Miss. 5-man rush. Stout tries to beat it. Hot route to the right. Incomplete. Intended for Dante Moncrief. That was a pretty good throw, though, from Stout. Moncrief got his hands on it. Couldn't hold on. Now it's third down and 9.
Good throw. Better coverage by Simon out there. Simon was all over Moncrief. There's not much of a window. I mean, that's what you get with this secondary. I mean, that's the key to this LSU defense. They are so good on the back end. It covers up for any mistakes or issues they may have in the front 7.
Only a 3-man front. On 3rd down and 9, it's a 4-man rush. Stout wanted to set up the screen. Now he tries to buy some time, and he goes down at midfield. He'll lose a couple of yards. Brandon Taylor will get credit for the sack. Now it's 4th down and 12, and Houston Nutt will send the punt unit out.
Yeah, Stout's problem is that this secondary doesn't respect the deep ball. They believe that Stout has to throw the ball short to get confident, and they are attacking everything right now.
Tyrann Mathieu is back deep in about the 12-yard line to receive the punt from Tyler Campbell, and it's a wobbly kick. Fair catch called for and bobbled, but Mathieu holds on just inside the 15-yard line. So LSU has a 7-0 lead. We'll see their offense and Jordan Jefferson at quarterback for the first time when we come back. Welcome back to Ole Miss. Our score, LSU 7, Ole Miss nothing, as we continue Dr. Pepper's road to the championships. And it might be a road right through Baton Rouge and right down the road through New Orleans. Who knows for LSU as their offense takes the field for the first time tonight inside their own 15-yard line. Jordan Jefferson, bootleg on his first play. Whips it up the sideline. He's got a 1st down and more. Breaking tackles is Ruben Randall. And he's all the way out close to the 35-yard line.
Well, Jordan Jefferson gives you that ability. You're talking about a guy's big quarterback, 6'5", can really run the football almost 1,000 yards, and he's mobile. He gives you a little bit more than Lee does in that part of the game, and I think that's the reason why they're getting him more time to get him ready for the postseason.
Jefferson lost the snap at about the 35-yard line. These are the types of breaks that Ole Miss will have to have tonight if they recover a fumble. But it will stay with LSU. Boy, the recipe, Rod, for a possible upset would be breaks like that. But LSU does well to get it back as Jarrett Lee looks on.
Well, last night we saw Iowa State blow opportunities in the first quarter, but hung around long enough to stay in the game. That was a blown opportunity by Ole Miss. They'll have to overcome that, though.
Well, you saw that number. Only 6 giveaways all year on offense for LSU. Tied with Wisconsin for fewest in the nation. Spencer Ware right up the middle. And he picks up about 5. It'll be 3rd and 5. Let's take a look at our impact players for LSU, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Well, on the outside, it's Randall. He's having a really productive season out there. 8 touchdown passes. He'll get chances tonight because there'll be a lot of blitzing done tonight. Ware, one of 3 running backs they use back there, he's really been strong, sharing time out there. And then Charles Sawyer, free safety for Ole Miss, is going to have his hands full dealing with the passing attack with the blitz.
3rd down and 5 for LSU. Jefferson has the blitz come and somehow gets away. There goes Jordan Jefferson. 1st down and more. How did Ole Miss not get the sack? All the way down to the Rebel 40-yard line.
Trying to wrap up a quarterback who's 6'5", 225, 230, and is athletic and can change direction. You'll see the blitz come from over here. They have a chance to get there from that side. Got to wrap them up.
Boy, did Tyrone Nix, the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss, dial up the perfect blitz. Brought Serdarius Bryant off the edge, and Bryant overruns Jordan Jefferson. Back to the ground. Spencer Ware moves the pile for 5 yards. It'll be 2nd down and 5 at the Ole Miss 35. Jordan Jefferson is the best scrambling quarterback that LSU has ever had.
You're talking about a guy who missed a lot of this season also. I mean, think of the numbers he would have put up had he been the starting quarterback from day one instead of being suspended.
And suspended at the start of the season for his involvement in a bar fight in late August. His first start last week in the win over Western Kentucky. Now the toss wide to Ford. And Ford gets to the edge. Still on his feet. Inside the 20-yard line to about the Ole Miss 19 goes Michael Ford. Cody Pruitt eventually spun him down.
This is an Ole Miss defense that believes it has to pressure, has to blitz in order to make things happen. And LSU is planning on taking advantage of getting to the outside and using the mobility of Jefferson to work the outside, whether it's running or throwing.
And now it's Alfred Blue, the sophomore, in at tailback behind Jordan Jefferson. Play action. Jefferson rolling out, buying time, flips it to Beckham. He's inside the 10, down to about the 6-yard line. Odell Beckham got loose. It's another first down, 1st and goal for LSU. And let's take a look now at how LSU is doing in the red zone this year, brought to you by Verizon. And when you're 35 for 46 touchdown ratio,
that's pretty
you're doing
good.
pretty well.
Yeah, and that's about 76%. Excellent is 80%, so they are really, really close on the edge there, and it's about touchdowns. It's not field goals. You've got to get 80% or so touchdowns.
Spencer Ware back in as the tailback, 1st and goal at the 6. Ware right up the middle to the 1-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and goal.
When they get into a 2-back set, I think that's when LSU is at their best. Copeland at fullback makes a big difference. A great lead blocker, helps Ware, helps Ford, helps Blue whenever they change running backs. I think that's their best formation with Jefferson in there because of his ability to play action out of that.
Well, now it's Kenny Hilliard, the true freshman, checking in at quarterback, or at running back, pardon me. But now LSU will take a timeout. We'll step away for 60 seconds and come right back to Oxford. Some personnel confusion before that last play for LSU as they ran Kenny Hilliard, true freshman tailback, in, and now have decided to go with Michael Ford and Kenny Hilliard in the I formation behind Jefferson. 2nd down and goal just inside the 1. And it's Hilliard leaping up over the top. 2nd effort across the goal line, and he's in for the touchdown. A 9-play, 86-yard touchdown drive, Rod, that could have short-circuited a couple of times if Ole Miss just could have made a play on defense.
Yeah, you know, talking to coaches for LSU before the game, they said, you didn't think we were aware of what happened last night?
14-0, and Kenny Hilliard with his 5th rushing touchdown of the season. LSU making it look easy early.
Irish, it's 16-14, 8 seconds left.
All right, thanks a lot, Reese. Well, Tyrann Mathieu got an earful from Les Miles as that extra shove out of bounds just before we went back to the studio for the update did draw a personal foul flag. So Rod Gilmore out to the 42-yard line for Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's not the biggest guy on the field, but he may be the most aggressive guy. He doesn't back down from anyone.
Stout whips one to the sideline. It's incomplete. And Mathieu out there in coverage, knocked it away from Vincent Sanders. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
You know, if you watch Mathieu before the game on the field, pregame, he is active, he is confident, he tries to impose his personality on the other team during warmups. I mean, he's an aggressive player. Love his style. No problem with that. Love his style.
Talking to Les Miles about him, though, he kind of has that alter ego that he embraced when he was nicknamed the Honey Badger.
He flips that switch.
There's no question. 2nd down and 10. Brassel motions into the backfield. They'll flip it to him, and the true freshman cut down. A loss of 5 yards. Brandon Taylor read it perfectly and brought him down. And an injury update with Janine.
Well, guys, as you can see, Bolden is back out on the field after rolling his left ankle. They taped over what was already taped. They gave him some ibuprofen, but I can tell you, it's going to take a heck of a lot more than a sprained ankle to keep him off the field. Not only is he a senior playing in his final home game here tonight, but he's from Baton Rouge and was passed over by LSU.
That's great stuff, Janine. He's back in the game now. Enrique Davis out there as well on 3rd down and 15. Low snap. Stout wants to set up the screen. Here comes the rush. He lost the football. At about the 27-yard line, Ron Brooks, already with a pick 6, now gets the strip sack and comes up with the fumble recovery.
He's already had a big night. And the problem again for Ole Miss They're trying to do things to make Stout comfortable. Short passes. LSU knows it. I mean, they got the pressure. They're bringing the blitz. Brooks is coming in. They're sitting on the short routes. There's nowhere to go with the football, and there's another turnover.
2 more takeaways for the LSU defense. On the season, they are now plus 17 as a team in the turnover ratio. Jefferson up the middle, hurdles over a tackler and gets to the 22-yard line. That's a pickup of 4. It'll be 2nd down and 6.
You know, I'm wondering if the LSU defense has gained more yards than the Ole Miss offense. It might be close.
I think that young man right there has gained more yards in the game than anyone. His pick 6 was good for close to 50 yards on the return. Jefferson pulls it back, takes a shot at the end zone, and it's an LSU touchdown. Russell Shepard, his 3rd touchdown catch of the season. And the #1 team in the country looking very much like it.
Oh, how good was that? I mean, he had a blitz coming right in his face. He stared it down and threw a dart into the end zone to Shepard. Did not care about the pressure. You start talking about how good this team can be. They get quarterback play like that. Look out.
21-0. Still 5:11 to go in the first quarter.
I want you to take a look at the pressure that will come right here and watch what Jefferson does. He rolls out, stares it down, doesn't flinch, and throws a dart. That's big time when they bring the blitz right from the right place. Free shot at the quarterback. Jefferson did not panic.
What does it say to you that he has now become the starting quarterback the past couple of weeks? I mean, is he now their guy?
I think so. I think once you saw the Alabama game, and watch his toughness. You know, he hangs in there. That probably should have been flagged. They got the face there. Turn that head around. Hey, you got the whistle? Use it. Use the whistle. That's what he's saying to him. But I think the big point is they're thinking about Arkansas next Friday and Georgia in the SEC championship game and a national championship game, and they can't afford to have a game where quarterback play is like it was against Alabama. And they need his athleticism.
Hairston sends it deep. And this is best kickoff so far. Moore from inside the 5 this time. He's been busy. Philander Moore out to the 21-yard line. Well, you can join host Reese Davis, analyst Kirk Herbstreit, Craig James for BCS Countdown Sunday night. They'll unveil the latest BCS standings and analyze who the contenders and pretenders are. BCS Countdown presented by Vizio on ESPN tomorrow at 8:15 Eastern. And that show, as the year goes on, is going to start to look like Selection Sunday in college basketball, where the poll now, I mean, it's going to be back and forth. Who are going to be the 1 seeds? Who's going to make it to the tournament? Who's going to be left out? All these one-loss teams will be wondering that.
That's exactly right. As we take a look at Eric Reed, who's getting up off the field now, I'm waiting to see what are the arguments and what are the tests that people will use to argue for a team. That's going to be the interesting thing.
For Ole Miss, it'll be 1st and 10.
How do you justify Oregon, Oklahoma, or whomever, Alabama?
And a quarterback change for Ole Miss as Zach Stout has turned it over twice. So Barry Brunetti, the sophomore from right up the road in Memphis, who was at West Virginia last year, comes on. Hands to Enrique Davis. And Brunetti started the first game of the season. He was supposed to be their guy when Randall Mackey was suspended to open the year, and he was pulled against BYU, and Zach Stout took over that game. He's only played in 3 games this season and hasn't played much.
Well, he fits the offensive style a little better than Stout does. He's a little bit more mobile. He gives them a little bit of a threat to run the football so that LSU will not know where the quarterback will be every single play.
Flags down, as this should be a false start.
Penalty flag.
False start, 79 on the offense, penalty 5 yards. Second down.
The right tackle Bobby Massey called for a 5-yard penalty, so that will back up Ole Miss.
You know, if you're Houston Nutt, you felt like you had to make the quarterback change because Stout was back there. Things were not getting better, and LSU was just teeing off on it.
Well, Barry Brunetti won back-to-back state titles at Memphis University School back in 08 and 09. They were perfect both years. His mom wanted him to stay close to home. He chose Mississippi State, but then switched and instead went to West Virginia. His mom was ill, though, so he got a release to come back home. And Brandon Bolden busts into the secondary and gets tripped up, but that's a first down for Ole Miss.
But now they've got the zone read that we've seen so much of in college football back in the offense. You get a chance to make sure that you just bring him inside, read that defensive end, open it up inside, and Bolden gets a big hole. That threat wasn't there with Stout.
Slow developing trap handoff on the end around to Brassel, and he is brought down for over a 10-yard loss back inside the 25-yard line. As we take a look at this week's BCS standings, brought to you by Vizio. This is not going to be what this looks like tomorrow.
No, it's going to change. You're going to hear a lot of discussion about who's better, who deserves to be number 2 between Alabama and Oregon, assuming Oregon beats USC tonight. Oklahoma was hurt by the Oklahoma State loss because they needed Oklahoma State to be undefeated for Oklahoma to beat them and have an argument for jumping over the other one-loss teams.
And Clemson gets walloped at NC State today. Looks like another false start will be called against Ole Miss.
False start, 75 on the offense, penalty 5 yards, second down.
Ole Miss is just killing themselves with penalties and also trying misdirection plays that have resulted in big losses against a fast defense.
Yeah, that's really not going to work. Not with a defense that is fast and disciplined. These guys stay at home on the backside, so it's hard to get them out of their responsibilities.
Why wouldn't you? You know, the guy on the other side of the field's an All-American that's going to be a pro too someday. 2nd and 25. There goes Brunetti. Out to about the 30-yard line. That gets them into at least a possible conversion distance. It'll be 3rd down and long, 3rd down and 14.
Well, it's a good change. You know, this gives them the threat, a threat they didn't have before. They had no running attack the first 2 series. Now with Brunetti in there, there's something they can bring. Now the adjustment, though, you're going to see LSU play for that and go to more man coverage. Now you're going to have to throw the ball. You're going to have to complete passes.
Here comes the blitz on 3rd and 14. Quarterback draw. There goes Brunetti. He's got a first down. Derek Bryant tripped him up, but not before Barry Brunetti scrambles for a first down.
But when your quarterback runs, you actually have one more blocker because you haven't handed the ball off to anybody. And when you get man coverage, now you're blocking a man on a man. And if Brunetti can find a hole, he's got something going.
You know, we have to get Elias on the phone right now. How many times do you think LSU's defense has given up a first down after they had someone at 2nd and 25 this year?
That's next level stat stuff.
Bolden, a half-yard gain to the 46. Good penetration as a flag gets dropped in the secondary. Ryan Baker made the stop, but the flag dropped out well after the play was over. LSU might have had 12 men on the field, and they might have realized it late. I think it was after the play was over that the back judge dropped the flag, but it might have been too many men on the field. Nope.
Chop block on Ole Miss.
So again, that is going to put Ole Miss behind the chains.
Well, there's Jarrett Lee. We expected to see him early in the ball game. 3rd series was what Houston Nutt told Janine we could expect, and that would be coming up here soon.
Number 16 on the offense. Penalty 15 yards. First down.
Les Miles, not Houston Nutt.
So a 15-yard penalty. Now it's 1st down and 25. as Jordan Jefferson might get a series or two off. We'll see how long Les Miles stays with Jarrett Lee, if indeed Jarrett Lee does come in for the next series. But talking before the game, I mean, Les Miles said last week the reason that Jordan Jefferson started the game against Western Kentucky was it was practice reps, practice performance, and whatnot.
Practice?
It was
practice?
We're talking about practice? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the media answer.
Yeah.
What do you think the real answer is?
I think it's what we've been talking about all along. I mean, they're getting ready for the next couple of weeks, and they want to have Jefferson ready. And he's got to have reps in game time and have that experience of starting. He hadn't started all year, and he was going to be the starter to start the season, so they got him out there. And they have him out there tonight as a starter. They're getting him ready for the big games.
Bolden gets outside to the 38-yard line before he is bumped out. Derek Bryant on the stop, so it will be second down and a mile.
I mean, think about it. You made the point as we were talking earlier. How do you take a guy who has started every game for you and then take him out of the starting lineup based on a couple of practices?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No.
Clearly, you would think the message is being sent that, as you said, for the bigger games, and probably having to do with the performance of both quarterbacks in the Alabama game, sure, they think their road to the national championship goes mostly with Jefferson. As Brunetti scrambles for two, it'll be third down and a long 15 at the 40-yard line for Ole Miss. You know, that might take us to the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. But when you watch this defense on tape, it really jumps out at you that the secondary dominates things, and that if you're going to have any success against this defense, you have to be a physical, run-oriented team to challenge that front seven. If you expect to make your money on the back end, it's not going to happen.
Well, the back end started it for LSU. They lead 21-0, and it was Ron Brooks, his second pick six of the year, that got LSU on the board at first. Then the run game did it, and the passing game as well, as Jefferson found Russell Shepard, a 21-0 lead.
You're watching the SEC on ESPN. College football lives here.
And it is a college football night in the SEC here in Oxford, and the first quarter dominated by LSU. Bob Wischusen, Rod Gilmore, Janine Edwards watching the second quarter open up with Barry Brunetti on 3rd and 15, checking down to Brandon Bolden. That will be an Ole Miss punt. The defense for LSU, it is as advertised.
Well, it begins there. I mean, they play so aggressively on defense. They start getting things for the offense. They make it happen. They are so attacking on the back end, and a very confident group. I don't think you get the sense of how confident they play unless you're in the stadium and down on the field with them. They are really something out there.
Yeah, talking to their defensive coordinator, John Chavis, as this punt will come down at about the 12-yard line to Matthew, and he breaks a tackle. Breaks another tackle. Runs into his own man at the 30-yard line. And that's where LSU will begin after we check in again with Reese.
All right, Bob, want to get you up to date on what's going on in the Pac-12. UCLA is still in the mix in that mess that is the Pac-12 South. UCLA against Colorado. Kevin Prince to Shaq Evans for the touchdown. Jonathan Franklin's added another one. 14-0 Bruins on top.
Well, it's 21-0 Reese. LSU on top of Ole Miss in what has been a nightmare season for the Rebels and a dream season so far for LSU. A big reason why, the young man at quarterback now, Jarrett Lee. He'll hand one off to Alfred Blue on first down, and Blue will pick up about 5 yards as we check our numbers. Rod Gilmore from the first quarter, and takeaways turning into points, the bread and butter for LSU defensively, and that was a major factor in the first portion of this game.
They converted everything. I mean, we talked about Brooks and what he did. I mean, he made 2 big plays.
Quick hitch to Odell Beckham, and he is very close to an LSU first down. Looks to be about a half-yard shy. It'll be 3rd down and a foot. But a tough position, you have to think, for Jarrett Lee. I mean, they've made the commitment, it seems, to play him in these games. He didn't get into the Western Kentucky game until the 4th quarter. Steps in place of Jordan Jefferson to start the year. He's the unexpected starter, and he plays beautifully. 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, gets them all the way to the Alabama game undefeated. Starts off shakily, and then it becomes a changing of the guard. The toss to the outside to Michael Ford on 3rd down, and he's bumped out short. Cody Pruitt comes up to make the stop. It'll be 4th down and a yard. No one goes for it on 4th down more than Les Miles. Would he do that inside his own 40-yard line?
You know, he probably feels like he couldn't get away with it, but no need to do it here. His defense is playing great. But how about Pruitt? I mean, that was great anticipation. I'm surprised that LSU went outside, considering the success they've had inside. But Pruitt anticipated and made a great play.
The conversation between Miles and Jared Lee almost makes it look like the quarterback might have either changed the play or made a mistake, as Philander Moore fields it inside the 15-yard line and goes down right there.
Brooks is everywhere.
He makes the stop on special teams. We'll step aside. 21-0 LSU over Ole Miss. 2 turnovers for the Rebels. 14 LSU points off of those turnovers. And Rod Gilmore, that's basically the story of the first quarter.
Yeah, it was the Ron Brooks show. He got the pick 6, got a sack and a strip to set up the offense for LSU.
Early in the second quarter now, the 5th possession of the game for Ole Miss. And Barry Brunetti under pressure, spins towards the goal line and gets thrown down.
You cannot hold the football that long. Young quarterback didn't recognize that. You gotta get rid of the football.
2nd sack of the season for Michael Brockers, and he gets him at the 1-yard line.
Well, now count this. Just count it. Way too much time. Your line can't hold up for 3.5 seconds. That's a 13-yard loss.
They lose the ball in the end zone on a trap handoff, and it looks like LSU has recovered for a touchdown. Philander Moore couldn't get the exchange, and it looks like Kevin Minter comes up with the fumble recovery for a touchdown. Already 3 turnovers, 2 of them leading directly to defensive touchdowns for LSU.
Yeah, I don't understand this. Why would you do so much ball handling deep in your own end zone when you really haven't had much offense? You need to try and wedge that ball out of there.
Is it me, or did Philander Moore not even look like he was supposed to be given the ball by Brunetti? Well, it almost looked like Brunetti was surprised that he was there.
Yeah, he's running that fly sweep, and I don't know if he anticipated it or not. But that's a difficult play to run deep in your own end zone.
I can't imagine they would have called for a jet motion handoff 3 yards deep in the end zone, but it's another LSU touchdown.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Expedia. The best travel tools are all in one place. Where you book matters. Expedia. And Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'.
There is nothing better than clogging your arteries at Taylor's Grocery and Restaurant. Some of the best catfish just outside of Oxford.
Consider mine clogged after today.
And this is the best, by the way. They were closed Sunday to watch Eli beat the Patriots, and you can see Eli's signature up at the top. That's from the Super Bowl.
That's awesome.
When the Giants ended the perfect season of the New England Patriots a few years ago. And Archie Manning, by the way, is heading up the 5-man committee. He is one of the co-chairs of the committee that is going to pick the next head coach here at Ole Miss. Brazel from the 5-yard line will bring this one back, and he's got LSU kind of speed. Slips and falls at the 36. But back to the touchdown, and Rod, we were right. The play was not designed the way we anticipated it was.
Yeah, this is mistimed. Watch Moore, 22, come into your picture. The timing is off. He gets in the way of what was supposed to be a handoff to Davis that was simply going to try and wedge the ball out. But because of the timing miscue there, Moore got in the way of the handoff, and that caused the fumble in the end zone.
It seemed like a strange play to run in your end zone.
Absolutely.
Well, the last time LSU recovered a fumble in an end zone for a touchdown was against Alabama in 1997. Chuck Wiley did it. And no gain on first down. So already 3 takeaways by the LSU defense, 2 of them directly for defensive touchdowns. And Ole Miss averaging about 1.5 yards per play.
Well, this is a young Ole Miss team. Probably going to be pretty good for the next coach. But playing this defense with your third-string quarterback, your second-string running back, that's not a good deal. Young receivers on the outside.
Four-man rush on 2nd and 10, and Brunetti running for his life. Picks up about 3 yards. It will be 3rd down and 7 after we check in with Janine.
Well, guys, if you've been looking for Tiger safety Eric Reed out there, he is done for the night. They actually took him to the locker room about 10 minutes ago, complaining of pain in his right quadricep. They say they're not sure exactly what is wrong with him, but he has some sort of a thigh bruise. But since they're up 28-0, they said, you know what, they're just going to rest him and call it a night.
You know, they certainly want him back. They've got that Arkansas passing attack next week.
Brunetti on 3rd and 7 fires a strike over the middle. That's good for a 1st down for Ole Miss to the 46-yard line of LSU. Again, it's Vincent Sanders on the reception.
Well, Sanders beat the man coverage, and that's what you're going to have to do. You'll see him lined up man on man with Simon. He gets inside, he beats the man coverage, and the ball's on time. You know, notice that they're staying away from working against Claiborne or Matthew. They're working against the least experienced guy over there, Simon.
Only one deep safety for LSU, and now a false start. Looks like Furbia Allen, the tight end, guilty.
False start, 83 on the offense, 25 yards, 1st down.
You mentioned that one deep safety. You see that one deep safety, and you see Claiborne and Matthew up in the face of the receivers. They are challenging and daring you. They're telling you right off the bat, we're playing man coverage. We don't think you can beat us, and we've got a center fielder back there to help if we need it, but we don't think we need the help.
4 penalties now for 29 yards for Ole Miss, and now it's 1st and 15. Play action, Brunetti buys some time, and he can take off, and he will. Gets about half the yardage he needs, 7-yard gain. Love the Heisman Duck as we bring you our Aflac trivia question for tonight. 2007, who defeated #1 LSU, and who was the head coach?
That's a good one. I like that. Good question. Any question that makes me think is a really good one.
It's not what we want the folks back in Baton Rouge watching us to think about. I didn't pick the question. I know they're probably cringing back there thinking about that one.
You don't have to apologize. It's just a question.
Bad memories. Bolden tries to find a cutback spot and can't do it. Brought down for a loss of about a half yard as we check in with Reese.
All right, Bob, time for Sports Center right now, presented by Discover Card. Eagles and Giants Sunday. Michael Vick and Jeremy Maclin out for that Sunday night game. Ribs for Vick, shoulder and hammy for Maclin. Could be Vince Young situation, maybe Mike Kafka out of Northwestern. Georgia took care of the SEC East. Dogs were pretty tight knowing they could clinch against Kentucky, but they hang on to win the SEC East by beating the Cats 19-10.
Well, Reese, LSU has been anything but tight tonight. They lead 28-0. 3rd down and long, and Brunetti on a keeper crawls for about 3 yards. Actually, he'll be marked down at the 42. So it'll be 4th down and 6, and here comes the punt unit.
Well, when they want to get after you, they're not afraid to bring the pressure right inside, and Minter is the guy that can do it. They come right in a hurry and just disrupt this play. And when you've got guys that can play man coverage, you can really come after folks with blitzes with your linebackers.
Tyrann Mathieu deep to receive the punt from Campbell. And Campbell will send a line drive bouncer down inside the 10-yard line, and it goes out of bounds at the 5. Ugly but effective. A Rod Gilmore 4-iron that goes out of bounds at the 5. LSU with a 28-0 lead. Back at Ole Miss, 28-0. #1 LSU leading the Rebels midway through the 2nd quarter. And Jordan Jefferson back in at quarterback for the Tigers at their own 5-yard line. Toss to Spencer Ware. And he's out close to the 8-yard line, a gain of 3. Carton Martin made the stop for Ole Miss. And play selection so far, interesting, and what has led to a 28-0 lead. For the most part, LSU, it's been their defense scoring and their ground attack.
Well, they've been efficient, and they haven't had to throw it an awful lot, but Jefferson threw a touchdown pass in that first quarter. So this offense hasn't had to open it up tonight because the defense has done so much.
Jarrett Lee back on the sideline. Spencer Ware now in a tailback for LSU. Jefferson from the goal line will throw. Flips it wide open. Here's Claymore up the sideline. Chase Claymore's got a first down to about the 19-yard line. And it's time now to answer our Aflac trivia question. Back in 2007, who beat LSU and who was the head coach when they were #1? Houston Nutt. And a thriller when Coach Nutt was at Arkansas with the Razorbacks. Triple overtime, a 2-point win.
You knew the LSU fans knew that.
The sideline close to another first down, fighting his way for a gain of 11 is D'Angelo Peterson.
Now you mentioned Houston Nutt. He's dealing with 12 straight SEC losses. And after his first couple of seasons, Cotton Bowls, both years, 2 very subpar years, he's out the door. And you got to think the next coach who comes in is going to like the talent, going to like the freshman class that they have here and the facilities and the like, but rebuilding job.
Jefferson to throw again on first down. Well protected. Buying some more time. And now he'll take off down the sideline and step out of bounds at the 32-yard line for a gain of a couple as we check in with Janine.
Well, Bob, you and Rod have been talking about the coaching search for Houston Nutt's replacement, and you mentioned Archie Manning. Well, the group, the search committee, has met physically one time last Saturday, but since then they've not given any updates other than Archie saying he's gotten about 25 emails from fans wanting his son Peyton Manning to take over as the head coach here of the Rebels, and he passed it on to Peyton, and Peyton said they might want to rethink that because so far I'm 0-10 as an assistant.
It's a good point. 2nd and 6. Up the middle goes Kenny Hilliard, about a yard shy of a first down. It'll be 3rd down and 1. And if there was ever the definition of an MVP, I mean, if you could ever give an MVP to a player who doesn't play, who is there a better case study to point to than Peyton Manning truly being the MVP of any team in any sport than this year? They go from being a perennial 10, 11, 12 win team to not winning a game this year without him.
Well, Mark Schlereth, our Mark Schlereth forever said without Peyton Manning, that's a 3-13 team. He's clearly wrong. they're a winless team.
Hilliard the eye back on 3rd down and a yard. Quick toss to the true freshman, and he moves the pile for an LSU first down. Plenty of good quarterbacks to watch on Monday Night Football over the next couple of weeks. Super Bowl MVP quarterbacks abound. Not one that plays for the Chiefs, mind you, but Tom Brady plays for the Patriots. That's coming up on Monday. And then Eli and Drew Brees square off. Giants Saints. That should be a good one.
Yeah, nice.
November 28th.
Nice matchup of quarterbacks there. Eli staking his claim to being a top-tier quarterback.
Jefferson now runs the option. The pitch wide to Michael Ford. And he hammers his way to midfield.
You notice the difference in the offense when Jefferson is in versus Lee? It's a little bit more dynamic. They're willing to run option. They're willing to do zone read. They're willing to move the pocket and let Jefferson get outside. That's not the case with Lee. Now, Lee did well up until the Alabama game, and there are things he can do well. He can sit in the pocket. He can throw the ball. They're just a bit more dynamic offensively when they have Jefferson in there.
Well, I think you can make the argument they're a lot more dynamic when they've got him in there.
Yeah.
And now he's in the gun on 2nd down and 2. Flips it to a wide open Ford in the open field, and Ford steps into plus territory and gets bumped out, but he's got a first down to the 47 of Ole Miss as we check in again with Reese.
All right, Bob, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, in-state rivalry on ESPNU, and the Volunteers have Tyler Bray back after missing games with a hand injury. He finds Derrick Rogers. Vanderbilt trying to become bowl eligible. Tennessee has to win out in order to finish at 500.
Well, if LSU wins out, Reese, we know where they'll be, and that'll be right down the road in New Orleans to play for the whole thing.
Next week, big game, Arkansas, LSU.
They've got 2 big games left as the SEC championship game sits behind Arkansas as well. Trap handoff to Alfred Blue, and he's right up the middle for a gain of about 7 more yards to the 40-yard line of Ole Miss. Time now for our SEC conference update, brought to you by Dr. Pepper 10. A closer look at the SEC scoreboard from earlier today. And how about Florida? They were down at one point 22-7 in the Swamp to Furman.
Right there. Arkansas. You just dissed Arkansas by putting LSU in the championship game against Georgia. Arkansas still has something to say about that.
Jefferson bullets one to the sideline, and that looks like a completion to Odell Beckham. He's got it at the 35-yard line.
What a year he's had. I mean, he came in, true freshman, and did a great job right from the start. Never had any moment being too big for him. He's just a young player with a lot of poise, has no trouble being aggressive against a defensive back and finding a way to get open. That's a good, hard, physical route against a good, hard defensive back.
Jefferson is perfect, 7 for 7 for 88 yards and a touchdown. And now a 0 blitz shown by Ole Miss. No deep safeties. And right up the middle with no deep safeties goes Spencer Ware. Well, if you bring your whole defense up to the line of scrimmage, there's no one home if you find a crease.
No second line of defense. You get through that initial line, and that's all she wrote. And Spencer Ware took it to the house.
Spencer Ware with his 7th rushing touchdown of the season.
Take a look at this. That is all wide open. Why? Because the safeties are there. And if that's what you have, you've got a problem. Especially if your linemen don't get off the blocks.
In that LSU backfield, their touchdown totals looks like the race for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. You wonder who's going to win at the end of the year. As Spencer Ware now takes the lead. He's got 7 touchdowns on the season. Ford has 6. Blue has 6. Hilliard even has 5. A lot of weapons on that LSU offense.
You're watching College Football Primetime on ESPN, presented by Hampton Hotels.
Bob Wischusen, Rod Gilmore, Janine Edwards back in Oxford, where Ole Miss has had tonight's game go, much like the rest of their season has gone, taking on #1 LSU and Jordan Jefferson. And the LSU offense has been just as good as the defense has been, and they have built a 5-touchdown lead as we come down to the last 3 minutes before halftime. Rod Gilmore was in Ames last night and didn't bring any of that upset magic down south.
No magic dust for you.
Not even a little bit. Well, if you had knocked off #2 and #1 in back-to-back nights, though. Brazel picks up the dropped ball at about the 12-yard line and escapes to the 22. Just 3 points separate Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart heading into the final race for the championship, and now they'll go head-to-head for NASCAR's ultimate prize. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup concludes with the Ford 400 at Homestead, Miami. Coverage begins tomorrow at 2 Eastern on ESPN, and Rod Gilmore before the game expertly was breaking down this matchup for us.
Well, it's because I had a problem. I don't like the way the scoring goes. Stewart has won 4 times. You know, you win 4 times, this thing should already be over. It's sort of like women's tennis. How can you be #1 without winning a major? Doesn't make sense.
Brandon Bolden looking for some running room and finds it down the sideline. Steps out of bounds at about the 32-yard line.
Brandon Bolden is the ball carrier for the Rebels.
It's my duty to fix all the improper scoring in all of sports, and I'm not going to take on the BCS right now.
I'm just wondering, where you're going to be 2 Sundays from now when a few of those one-loss teams, when they get left out, what they have to say.
Well, you know what we need? We need to develop a test, a standard for looking at these one-loss teams that everyone can agree on. At least everyone who has an opinion.
Well, obviously the NASCAR, I mean, you don't understand the system, but the human polls love Carl Edwards. Tony Stewart is huge in the computers, though. On first down, a gain of maybe a half yard for Bolden as we take a look at the remaining one-loss teams.
Yeah, and since Oklahoma State lost most recently, although I do believe the extenuating circumstances for that loss for them, they will probably fall somewhat significantly. Alabama, Oregon, the best arguments so far. Oklahoma hoping to have one. Everyone else they have issues in trying to argue to be in that title game. Stanford lost to Oregon. Virginia Tech, really tough loss to Clemson.
And Arkansas, as you mentioned, at number 6, stumbling away from center is Brunetti. And he goes down. A self-imposed sack back to the 26-yard line as we check in again with Reese.
All right, Bob, coming up on the Wendy's halftime report, some division clinchers as teams work their way to their conference championship games. USC and Oregon squaring off. Ducks can move into the Pac-12 championship game and also keep their national title hopes alive. Very early announcement. We'll keep you up to date there. And also, the one-loss scramble you guys were just talking about. Mark and Lou will be here. We'll sift our way through that. One of those one-loss teams fell by the wayside today.
And last night, if you count now as a one-loss team, Oklahoma State falling by the wayside. But here's the question that I would throw to you, Rod Gilmore. As LSU, by the way, called a timeout, so that's why we have stopped play with 1:44 to go before halftime. We have heard the argument from multiple sides as to whether or not we should see, if the computers and the polls warrant it, a rematch. Would you want to see Alabama LSU again? And my point is, no one ever says anything about what would be an Oregon LSU rematch. LSU's already beaten both of those teams. How come Oregon should have a right to a rematch if Alabama doesn't?
Well, that's why I made the point that we need to talk about what are the factors that are important to you for looking at these one-loss teams.
Quarterback draw on 3rd and 16, and Brunetti gets loose and makes a big play. Barry Brunetti.
Still on his feet.
What a run inside the 30 all the way down to the 27-yard line. Oh, that is some effort from the backup quarterback for Ole Miss.
And it wakes up the crowd. A couple of missed tackles in there. But again, Brunetti, this is the element he brings to the offense. You see him break off this draw play, which they've run about 3 or 4 times tonight. But it's great change of direction. That's the running skill he has that helps this offense. Now, if they can mesh that with some passing, they have a chance to score some points. Right now, the passing attack hasn't been there. And he's been the offense with his feet. And that offense hasn't generated any points.
And Ole Miss now will spend a timeout as Barry Brunetti is up to 66 yards rushing here in the first half. A 44-yard run there. So actually LSU trying to call timeout to preserve some time before 3rd down to give them a chance to score before halftime. Did Ole Miss a favor in the end. Yeah, and help the Rebels have a little bit of extra clock here as they are now inside the 30-yard line.
Well, and you want to go into halftime on a positive note if you're Ole Miss. You're looking for small victories. You're not talking about, you know, can we get 14 points in a hurry? Can we get 35? How do we catch up? You're looking for first downs, and you're looking for the first score. Anything positive to take into the locker room is something you might be able to build on. You don't worry about the scoreboard right now.
Brunetti to the outside. About a 5-yard gain for Vincent Sanders, and that stops the clock as he is bumped out at the 22 by Matthew.
Plenty of time for Ole Miss to get something on the board. And just to finish the point on the one-loss teams, we didn't mention Arkansas. I mean, everything changes if Arkansas knocks off LSU next week. Everything becomes up in the air.
It's almost the same level of shock waves that would be sent through the BCS as last night's game will. Bolden, no gain. It'll be 3rd and 5, and we'll see if Ole Miss spends another timeout here to talk about the 3rd down play, and they will. Houston Nutt called that timeout from the sideline. So we will step aside for 30 seconds and come back with 3rd down and 5 for Ole Miss in a moment. Here at Ole Miss, college football primetime, presented by Hampton Hotels, and it has been all LSU in the first half up until this moment, with 1:16 to go before halftime. A little bit of momentum for Ole Miss. 3rd down and 5 at the LSU 22.
They could go draw play again. A couple downs to play with.
Brunetti wants to put this one up. He'll throw it towards that back right corner of the end zone. Through the hands of Vincent Sanders. He almost had it over the top of Matthews. So now it's 4th down and 5. And it looks like Houston Nutt will try and at least get 3 as Bryson Rose will come out to attempt a field goal.
Well, if you can put points on the board, it at least helps someone on your offense, helps your kicker, gives you something to go into the locker room and talk about and build on and not worry about the score. That's the important thing for Houston Nutt, how you play the game right now.
Just under a 40-yard attempt for Rose. He's 7 for 9 on the season. And he's got it. Ole Miss gets on the board with just over a minute to go here in the first half.
You see him encouraging his players that that's a win. He counts that as a win. You had a drive from your own territory. You brought it down. You got points. He wants to use that to build on going into halftime.
56 yards on the last drive for Ole Miss. They had 60 yards of total offense the first half before that drive.
Yeah,
so almost doubled their numbers.
Yeah, well, we talked about it early on, too. If you're going to make a shot at a #1 team, you can't turn the ball over. You can't make the kind of mistakes that they made right off the bat. They put themselves in such a big hole in the first few minutes of the first quarter.
Well, it is senior day here at Ole Miss. And so before the game, Brandon Bolden, a handshake for Houston Nutt, honored with his family on the field. And also one of the more inspirational players on this team, Kentrell Lockett, who was granted a 6th year by the NCAA after tearing his ACL in week 4 last year. And he has had a very disappointing senior season. No sacks this year for Kentrell Lockett, as he had 10 tackles for loss 2 years ago, 11.5 tackles for loss in 2008. But it's hard when you're playing against on a defense that has struggled the way they have this year to stop the run. He's never really in pass rushing situations.
But you know, the thing is, when you're done and the game's over, your teammates, those will be the people you remember 5, 10, 15 years from now. So this moment still is really important regardless of the kind of season these guys have had.
Morris Claiborne returns out to the 15, where he's brought down with 58 seconds to go in the first half. And let's check in with Janine.
Well, Bob, Kentrell Lockett was one of the seniors who took Houston Nutt's firing especially hard. And he said the team has had a lot of trouble focusing this last week or so because of the coaching staff change. He said it's been a tough pill to swallow.
Well, I think, Janine, you're right. This is an unusual situation. When a head coach is fired, normally he leaves, he's replaced. He's not around continuing and having to explain to the players what's going on.
Spencer Ware hammers for about 2 yards, and a little bit of pushing and shoving after the whistle as Damian Jackson gets into it with J.C. Copeland.
You've got a head coach that the players have access to every day to talk to, and you have assistant coaches who are looking for their next job. And so all that creates a lot of uncertainty. Janine's absolutely right about what Lockett had to say. That's the impact that they have on a daily basis.
Well, it's a team that last week lost 27-7 at home to Louisiana Tech. And it was amidst all of what Janine was talking about. The uncertainty. They had no idea who their coach was going to be. Spencer Ware now to about the 27-yard line, and that should end the first half. So a field goal before halftime for Ole Miss gets them on the board, but the scoreboard certainly tells the story. LSU with a couple of touchdowns defensively, and they will get the ball to start the third quarter. A basically flawless first half for Jordan Jefferson. And you saw Ron Brooks there as well. He had a pick 6 and a strip sack. A lot went wrong for Houston Nutt's team, and he's with Janine.
Coach, how important was it to put some points on the board here before half?
Really important. You couldn't have started any worse than the way we started. Hand a good team 7 points.
How do you keep your team motivated now?
Just got to go in there and talk to them and tell them, hey, let's finish.
Do you think they're motivated right now?
Oh, it's hard to say about the score right now, but a lot of them are playing hard.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Janine, thanks very much. It's halftime here in Oxford. Let's go back to Reese, Mark, and Lou in the studio with the halftime report.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot. Been a lot of games like this for Ole Miss this year.
Welcome back to College Football Primetime on ESPN, presented by Hampton Hotels.
And welcome back to the SEC on ESPN. Just about set for the start of the third quarter here in Oxford. And Les Miles and his LSU Tigers dominant in the first half, 35-3. Their defense scoring twice. The takeaways, the biggest early momentum changer, as Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson both played in the first half, but Jefferson, the far more productive quarterback, he was basically perfect. 7 for 7 with a touchdown, and Rod Gilmore, takeaways, creating 3 touchdowns for LSU.
Well, clearly the LSU defense set the tone early on in the ball game, a pick 6 and the like. They had things going. Talk about setting that tone. It was the turnovers. It started with Brooks. Brooks got this right off the bat. There's your pick 6 to start the game. He had a fantastic first quarter. He gets a sack, a strip, a recover, and that's followed by a touchdown pass to Shepard from Jefferson. And then the most bizarre play, a mistimed handoff botched in the end zone, resulted in a touchdown, a defensive touchdown for LSU.
And LSU starts the third quarter with the football. Russell Shepard back deep to receive the kick. And it's a good one. Drives him 3 yards deep. He thought about bringing it out, but he'll take a knee. With Rod, I'm Bob Wischusen. Janine Edwards is with us here as well in Oxford. You saw magic happen last night in Ames. Didn't quite bring that same magic down to Oxford, much to the dismay of Ole Miss Rebel fans. But I think we knew there was a chance that Oklahoma State might be a little vulnerable. They don't have the best defense in the world. Well, it's hard to find holes in this LSU team.
Particularly the way they're starting to come on offensively. The quarterback spot, Jefferson playing great tonight. Jarrett Lee playing well. If that keeps up, this team's going to be really hard to beat because they are sound defensively.
It's Jefferson to start the second half at quarterback as well. Hands it off to Alfred Blue. And Alfred Blue picks up about 5 yards.
So the knock on LSU offensively is about the passing attack. The inability to make intermediate and deep throws. And that's what they have to get squared away for dealing with Arkansas and Georgia down the line, assuming they get to Georgia.
They run the option. The pitch to Blue. Alfred Blue turns on the Jets. He's down the sideline. Breaks a tackle. Does he stay in bounds? The officials don't mark him out. He's all the way down to the 18-yard line of Ole Miss before he's taken down, and he might be shaken up. What a job he did to stay in bounds. And the trainers will have to come out and take a look at Alfred Blue.
Well, again, it's that option play to the outside. They will use him, read the defensive end, and there he is, Blue. Great blocking down the field by their wide receivers, getting a nice job done out there, which opens up the hole. And it did look like he stayed in bounds. Might have stepped out there. Looks that way, but that's the white shoe near the white end zone. But from the other angle, it was clear he was still in bounds, and that official was right on top of it.
And they might have to go to replay review just to see if there is an angle that might show definitively whether or not he stayed in bounds. Because you're right, about 15 yards or so further up the field from where he was tackled, it looks like he might have touched the sideline. But more importantly, it looks like the training staff is working on the inside of that left knee. Alfred Blue had a terrific game last week against Western Kentucky. 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. And talking to the coaching staff this past week, they are really high on him as we take another look. What do you think?
That's where you're looking to see, and that one's hard to tell. You can't tell if this foot is flush or if there's a little bit of space. Now, this angle is not as clear an angle from this point of view, but it does look there from that angle like he's out of bounds. But if you want to overturn it, it has to be indisputable video evidence.
It's hard to say that either of those looks were indisputable. So it looks like the play will stand. A 57-yard gain for Blue. Now they run the option with Ford. Jefferson, though, keeps it and picks up about 1.5 yards. Brought down by Justin Smith as we check in with Janine.
Well, Bob, Les Miles told me that they only had about 20 offensive snaps in the first half, and he said, our plan for tonight hasn't even been seen yet. I said, what plan is that? And he said, well, we want to be more balanced on offense. You'll see more running. And he said, we will see some younger players, including a third quarterback. But mostly, he said, I want this team to finish with the same angry attitude they started with.
And Janine, we might even see Zach Mettenberger before the night's over. They said if the plan went as called for, you might see the third string quarterback, as this time Jordan Jefferson gets shut down behind the line, lost about 2 yards, so it will be 3rd down and 11.
You know what I'd like to see LSU do? I'd like to see them throw the football more. I mean, I know they're up 35-3, but I think Jefferson needs the work of being in the pocket and throwing the ball down the field. He's going to have to do it next week against Arkansas, and I think he needs snaps doing that against live competition.
Well, a passing down here, 3rd down and 11. And the pitch instead to Michael Ford. Ford inside the 10. Touchdown LSU.
But he should go find Ruben Randall and thank Ruben Randall. I mean, his wide receiver gave him a great block down the field that opened up that sideline for him and the inside.
Alamo with the extra point, and it is 42-3. LSU on top of Ole Miss. Well, this doesn't count as a touchdown pass, I guess, but it did the job.
Hey, how about that block right there by Randall? That is the thing that opened it up for the touchdown run for Ford.
That is a pretty nice three-headed monster right there in the backfield. Alfred Blue, Michael Ford, Spencer Ware from right to left. Ware and Ford both with a rushing touchdown tonight, along with the true freshman Kenny Hilliard. He has a rushing touchdown. Jordan Jefferson has a touchdown hookup with Russell Shepard, and LSU's defense has scored twice. All part of a 42-3 lead over Ole Miss.
Those 3 backs are all sophomores, young, productive running backs that they can interchange the remainder of the season.
Philander Moore from about the 6. Stops and can't get restarted. Brought down at the 23-yard line as we check in with Janine.
Well, guys, you were just talking about the great running backs for the Tigers. Well, they'll be without Alfred Blue for the rest of tonight, because on that play where he was down there on the sideline, looks like he pulled a hamstring a little bit, so they're going to hold him out for the rest of the evening.
Well, the fact that he's smiling is a good sign, though.
And it's still a pretty good stable to be able to go to without Alfred Blue. But talking to Greg Studrawa, who's the offensive coordinator for LSU, he said he's never been a part of a team where he didn't really care who carried the ball before he came to LSU. Every other team he's been a part of, as Bolden looks for yardage and doesn't find much, every other team he's coached for, he was always going into a game plan saying, here's the guy that we have to make sure we get carries. Well, he said not only does he have these 3, but he also has Kenny Hilliard. He also has another true freshman in Terrence McGee. He basically said, I've got 5 guys that I feel absolutely fine putting in the game and giving the football to.
Well, you want production from the spot. And in this day and age, with the kind of pounding that backs take, if you can have more than one, that's a luxury. That's what you need. That's what you need when you have injuries, guys nicked up. So that depth is important.
Brunetti outside to Jamal Mosley for about 6, maybe 7 yards. It'll be 3rd down and short.
You know, watching this LSU team, you know, it's clear it's a really good team, but mentally, emotionally, it's a tough team. Think about all the things they've overcome. Suspensions, injuries, Cragthorpe having Parkinson's, going from the O coordinator to the quarterback coach, relinquishing some duties. This team has dealt with an awful lot. That's Cragthorpe right there.
Brunetti on a keeper. Gets to the edge and has the 1st down.
You add all those off-the-field issues to going to West Virginia, getting a win, playing Oregon, getting a win, going to Tuscaloosa, getting a win. That toughens a team. All those things hardens a team.
Now, in your opinion, is Les Miles going to have to settle on one quarterback?
I think he is settling on one quarterback. I think he's moved into the Jordan Jefferson camp, and I think Lee is now his backup guy.
In spite of what he's saying?
Yes.
Because that's not what he's saying publicly. It's certainly not what he said after the Western Kentucky game last week. Brunetti, bubble screen, going nowhere, not even able to catch the ball as Brazel. As coming up to break it up is Matthew.
He's looking for an opportunity to get himself a pick six.
Why do you think that, in spite of the fact that Les Miles is saying that both quarterbacks deserve to play, that they're both a big part of why they're here and both are going to get the opportunity, why do you think at some point that Jordan Jefferson's going to be a 60-minute guy?
They started him last week. They started him this week. He got the quality snaps to begin the game, almost all the snaps last week. I think they're getting him ready, and he will be the starter in a big game like Arkansas. Now, if he isn't effective,
Brunetti hit as he throws, unloads to Jamal Mosley, and he was unloaded upon by Brandon Taylor. Taylor came on a safety blitz from the edge and buried Brunetti, but Brunetti stood in there and made a good throw.
Yeah, he did. I mean, there's the blitz from the outside on the corner. Once again, Taylor coming in.
I like that play by Brandon Taylor. That was a clean hit.
Yeah.
That was not designed to try and blow the quarterback up. That, to me, that's about as classy a play as a safety can make on an untouched blitz.
I think more coaches are teaching guys to hit from the numbers down and not at the head.
And they should. 3rd down and 1. Davis. Fall.
Talk about that. You noted. They are more diverse when Jefferson's the quarterback.
And more explosive, too, don't you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to need that next week. And I think that coaching staff believes that they need that. And the other thing, they know Jarrett Lee can come in and throw the football and play well. They know that. He's done that for them before.
Well, don't you also think that the style of quarterback that Lee is, as they're about 6 inches short, so it'll be 4th down and inches, and maybe Houston Nutt goes for it, down 42-3. But the style of quarterback that Jarrett Lee is kind of a manage the game guy, get it to your running backs, be efficient, and lends itself to being more of a backup quarterback that can come in cold off the bench and maybe be as productive as he would have been had he started. Whereas Jefferson, I think that's a guy that needs to start and play a lot and get into a rhythm in order to then play his best.
He also gives Arkansas nightmares defensively.
They are going to go for it on 4th down and inches. And a sneak by Brunetti. And he definitely has the first down. So Ole Miss converts on 4th down. And they move the chains.
I'm just really impressed with the mettle of this LSU team. On the field before the game, you know, again, some of their coaches remarked they were aware of last night's game. They watched that game, and they said their team took that to heart. They would be prepared tonight. There would be no let up, and there wasn't from the very start.
Bolden, maybe a half yard. Boy, no matter how speedy your running backs might be, you cannot beat the speed of the LSU defense to the edge. As that time LeVar Edwards was there to force Bolden back up inside. Logan in on the play as well.
I do like the young talent on this Ole Miss team. They've played a lot of freshmen. They've got freshman wide receivers, and you can see that they are athletic. They're just having trouble getting the ball down the field, protecting the quarterback and throwing the football.
Play action fake for Brunetti. Tries to come underneath. And that's incomplete, intended for Enrique Davis, so it will be 3rd down and 9.
Got protection that time, and Brunetti had time, but couldn't find anyone down the field. Nobody open, and then misfired when he came to his outlet receiver. But when you get protection against this LSU team, you have to convert down the field.
Tenth play of the drive coming up, and they still have yet to reach midfield. That's hard to do. 3rd down and 9, and now they have to call timeout with the play clock winding down. Timeout on the field. We'll step aside as well here in Oxford.
ESPN's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by Aflac, official partner of the Heisman Trophy. And the new City Simplicity card. Get started at citysimplicity.com.
Some of the legends of Ole Miss football. Obviously, a couple of guys named Manning played quarterback here. Also, you saw pictures of Jake Gibbs, an All-American quarterback who went on to play for the Yankees. And, of course, John Vaught, who won 3 national championships here and has his name on the stadium. Brunetti running for his life, trying to get back to the line of scrimmage on 3rd down and long and couldn't do it. And so now it's 4th down and about 12. Barkevius Mingo, helped up by Sam Montgomery, got in the backfield, and Brunetti had nowhere to go.
Notice that they bring pressure, including Tyrann Mathieu from the left side. They use him in that spot. When they line him up as a nickelback inside, they're not afraid to blitz him on the quarterback so he can make a big play.
6 sacks now for maybe my favorite name in college football, Barkevius Mingo.
You love it, huh?
Line drive kick down the far sideline. Again, Tyler Campbell trying to be ugly but effective. Picked up by Mathieu. Jitterbugs out to about the 25-yard line. And a reminder, Sunday NFL Countdown has returned this season with a new start time in 3 hours now of the best in the business. All the guys, Boomer, Keyshawn, Coach Ditka, Tom Jackson, Chris Carter, Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter, they're all there tomorrow morning to bring you the latest updates from stadiums around the league right up until kickoff. Sunday NFL Countdown presented by IBM on ESPN Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
These guys do a great job.
That's a great show.
Yep, fantastic.
Now we've got Jarrett Lee back in at quarterback. I think Les Miles heard our conversation. Spencer Ware out to about the 29-yard line for a gain of 3. Senquez Golson came up to make the stop. It was interesting talking to Greg Studrawa, the offensive coordinator, about Jarrett Lee. He said he's been here with him the whole way. It's such a great story. This is a young man that, as a redshirt freshman, when he wasn't ready to play quarterback back in 2008, had to play because Ryan Perrilloux was kicked off the team. So he throws 16 interceptions that year and gets a lot of flack from the fans. And now having an opportunity to play this year has been terrific. Trap handoff. Kenny Hilliard stiff arms his way all the way out to midfield as we check in with Reese.
Bob, I want to keep your finger on the primetime pulse. Many watching USC and Oregon on ABC. Matt Barkley's thrown 2 touchdown passes, and the Trojan defense has stifled the Ducks so far. 14-0 USC. On ESPN2, Virginia and Florida State tied at 7. Virginia, if it wins, have an opportunity to play Virginia Tech. Winner of that game would go to the ACC title game. Then Vanderbilt and Tennessee on ESPNU. It's now 10-7 Florida State, by the way.
All right, Reese. Well, obviously we'll keep our eyes on that Oregon score as well, as they're one of the teams fighting to play against LSU. Michael Ford for about 4 more yards. But Rod Studrawa said that if he were Jarrett Lee, he might have thought about transfer. Yeah. So with all that he went through, I might have thought that maybe the best move for me after that freshman year that I really got a lot of heat from the media and the fans might be, let me go someplace else and get a fresh start, a new slate.
Most quarterbacks do.
And he hung in.
Yeah, most quarterbacks.
And he's been rewarded this year.
Well, you know, he's a son of a coach. He's a guy who's disciplined. He believes in finishing things. You know, that's just his character. But a lot of guys leave and move on when it gets tough.
Spencer Ware to the 46-yard line, 5 yards shy of a first down, brings up 3rd down. Golson on the stop again.
Let me ask you this. Where would LSU be if Jefferson had been suspended and Lee had not been here?
Well, they wouldn't be where they are
exactly.
Now, obviously.
Exactly.
And maybe Les Miles feels some obligation to Jarrett Lee to make sure he continues to be a part of it.
Well, I mean,
do you owe that to your football team? Well, that's a difficult situation.
Well, I think it's also a little bit of a trust issue.
Third down and 5. Ware right up the middle, and he's got a first down. Lost the ball, but down before the ball popped out. How so? A trust issue?
The trust issue. They've had problems with Jefferson. I mean, he was suspended because of off-field issues, and you'd like to think it wouldn't happen again, but you may have a little bit of doubt. And then secondly, you run him a lot. He's a running quarterback. You might get him banged up, and if that's the case, if that happens, you have to have Jarrett Lee ready to step in and do a good job for you, as he's done before.
Ford hops back to the left, stays on his feet. What a run by Ford as he picks up 8 of the hardest yards we've seen a running back come up with this year. Charles Sawyer eventually helped bring him down, but Ryan Bennett looked like might have had him at the line. This is a heck of a run.
Yeah, and if you're Ole Miss, you want to see guys play hard and finish. Finish plays, make good clean tackles, hang in there, and you're not wrapping up. They're bouncing off guys. I mean, Ware just bounced off a couple of guys who didn't wrap up, and we see way too much of guys trying to knock folks down with their shoulders instead of wrapping up.
Now it's Kenny Hilliard in a tailback on 2nd down and 3. Flag down. That might be delay of game. It is. The play clock wound down.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
I guess my question with the quarterbacks is this, if you're Les Miles. Do you feel obligated to keep Lee as a part of things because of what he meant to your team while Jefferson was out, knowing that you're not going to be in this position without him? Conversely, is it fair to your football team to have the guy on the bench at any point that you think really is the quarterback that makes your team its best?
I don't know if it's obligation. I think he feels like Jarrett Lee has earned the right to have some playing time, and I think secondly, it's practical. He needs him ready. He still needs Jarrett Lee.
Wide open on the flip. That's a great read by Lee as he finds D'Angelo Peterson for an easy 1st down conversion.
This is awfully discouraging for a young defense. A lot of freshmen, sophomores out there for Ole Miss, and they're just hanging on. They're just trying to hang on and find a way. You can see there's not a lot of energy. They're not getting a lot of crowd support and the like, and they got to generate their own, and there's no way to generate it when LSU's pounding you.
That was the first completion for Lee, right up the middle. Shaking down to about the 10-yard line goes Terrence McGee. That's not fair. That's running back number 5 tonight. That's another true freshman, and it's 1st and goal for LSU.
Well, these guys, Ole Miss, they're catching instead of hitting. Watch the way that this run is finished. Watch how you have defenders falling on their backs, catching, and not hitting. That's a sign that they're not there. Energy level is not high enough.
McGee right up the middle. Down to the 1-yard line. Let's go down to Janine.
On the carry for LSU, 14, Terrence McGee.
Hey guys, you're exactly right in talking about Ole Miss and the energy level, and what I see on their benches is just, it looks like disinterest at this point. And meanwhile, on the other side, on the LSU side, guys almost look bored, and you may call it disinterest, but for a different reason. They're organized, though. They're hanging in there, but on the other side, the Ole Miss side, it's just more like distracting.
Well, Janine's 2nd down and goal to possibly add to the lead. Down to about the half-yard line goes James Stampley, and what Rod mentioned a moment ago was that the defense is not getting a lot of crowd support. To get crowd support, that would require a crowd,
well,
which they really don't have here anymore.
Well, it's a bad deal. It's a bad deal. You know, you fired the coach. It's the last home game. You're down by 39 points, and folks are leaving, going to the Grove.
The student section's in the Grove.
Yeah.
McGee's the eye back, 3rd down and goal. Instead it's Stampley. And he might have been brought down just a hair short. LSU thought he got in, but the officials say down at about the 1-foot line, so now it's 4th down and goal.
Now there was some energy. You see guys flying in, diving into the pile, trying to keep LSU out of the end zone. That's playing with some pride. That's playing with some energy.
In 7 years under Les Miles, LSU has gone for it on 4th down 89 times. And about 65% on the success rate. They're 3 for 3 this year. And they'll go for it on 4th and goal. A problem on the exchange, and still they're 4 for 4 on 4th down as Stampley gets into the end zone with a touchdown. Hard to believe that's the way they drew it up.
Well, Stampley took off without the ball and said, oh, whoa, wait a minute. I forgot something. I think I need the football to get. Watch this. He's buying. Oh, wait, you got it. I got it. Oh, okay. And then he almost lost it a second time.
(49-3). 54 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. Les Miles, it's been that kind of year for his Tigers. Welcome back to Oxford. Our score, LSU on top of Ole Miss, 49-3, as we continue Dr. Pepper's road to the championships. And the Bayou Bengals, somebody needs to loosen this group up. They are really way too tense.
That's how you finish the job, though, you know. If you play tight in November, you lose.
You saw it last night?
Yep. Oklahoma State played tight. They played tight, particularly in the second half. Their defense really played tight.
Nick Brassel back deep to receive the kick. And this has been the busiest group of the night for Ole Miss, the kickoff return unit. Brassel from the 15. Out to about the 23 as we take a look at the BCS Countdown tomorrow night. You can join host Reese Davis and analysts Kirk Herbstreit and Craig James. The BCS Countdown Sunday night when they unveil the latest BCS standings and analyze who the contenders and pretenders are. BCS Countdown presented by Vizio on ESPN tomorrow night at 8:15 Eastern. And these are the Vizio BCS standings. And these will be shaken up considerably when the new poll is released tomorrow night.
There may be more coming. Oklahoma State lost last night. Oregon in trouble with USC right now.
And Oklahoma down by a touchdown to Baylor as well. So plenty of one-loss teams potentially on the verge of becoming two-loss teams. Sweep to Bolden. He's got a lane. Out to the 36-yard line as we go back to Reese.
Bob and Rod want to show you how that USC-Oregon game's going. Oregon finally found some offensive rhythm. Darren Thomas to DeAnthony Thomas. As you probably know, DeAnthony Thomas, a longtime USC commit, before changing at the last minute. The Marquise Lee, who's having a great half, returned the kickoff close to midfield. Then Matt Barkley hit Robert Woods, second time they've hooked up for touchdowns tonight. 21-7. Trojans up on number 4.
Well, that is anything but the problems that LSU has had tonight, Reese, as Brandon Bolden takes off to the edge. He has a first down, and that should take us down to the end of the 3rd quarter here in Oxford. And Bolden looks like he might be shaken up again. No, able to get up, and he's okay. But, Rod, right now, Oklahoma in a bit of trouble. Oregon in some trouble. Oklahoma State lost last night. LSU and Les Miles, they have not even remotely fallen victim to any of those problems.
No, they've been solid. I find it funny that Robert Woods was out all week for USC and shows up and catches a couple touchdown passes against Oregon.
4th quarter coming up. 49-3 LSU. They have done it with a multitude of weapons. Alfred Blue with a long run. Michael Ford, a touchdown scamper of his own. The last, it was a little ugly, but James Stampley got in as well.
Welcome back to Oxford. College football wins here.
Oh, if only he were available.
You know, if you're going to do that, you got to set the Wayback Machine to about 1970. Otherwise, he might have a problem himself.
Even Archie in his heyday, I don't know, would want to go up against this LSU defense as Enrique Davis turns the corner and picks up about 9 yards, but 49-3, LSU on top. We've seen both quarterbacks. They have yet to have an incomplete pass. We've seen 5 different running backs in the game, and we've also seen their defense look pretty good.
That defense, 7 SEC games, right? A total of 50 points allowed.
That's amazing.
In 7 games. Unreal. And now you see the offense starting to come together. This LSU team is bucking the trend. You know, they're getting better in November, where we've seen other teams in the top 10 kind of struggle.
And what's even scarier is statistically Alabama's defense is better. Brunetti Tries a little bubble screen and heading in the wrong direction. Trying to turn the corner is Dante Moncrief. He ran a long way to lose about 4 or 5 yards. So we'll take a look at our game summary through the first 3 quarters, and 142 yards rushing for LSU, part of a big night. Or check that, 276, part of a big night, and they have yet to have an incomplete pass.
Yeah, and then they got the turnovers. The defense did their part, particularly early in the ball game. Brooks, in particular, had a sack and a strip to set up a touchdown pass and had a pick 6.
Yeah, LSU had 142 yards rushing in the 3rd quarter alone. As Brunetti on 3rd down at about 6 gets a 1.5 yards, so now it'll be 4th down and a long 4, close to 5.
Oh, and I like this move here. You know, they're going for it. You got a young team. Get them some confidence. You're not going to win the football game. Try and win a series, win it down. I agree with Houston not here this time. Manufacture some energy.
4th down at about 5. Bolden, the option halfback pass, thrown up for grabs and knocked away. Intended for Collins Moore.
You know, he wanted a flag. He's not going to get it. The officials were staring at him like, on that wounded duck, I'm not going to bail you guys out. And they had him out there, but Bolden didn't get it out there far enough for him.
So Ole Miss turns it over on downs here in the 4th. LSU with a 49-3 lead as we are about 2 minutes gone by here in the 4th quarter. And quarterback number 3 tonight, Zach Mettenberger, gets a chance to play. The sophomore transfer from Butler Community College, has spent a year at Georgia before there. And back to the ground, spinning free is Terrence McGee. Breaking tackles. McGee all the way down inside the 25 to about the 21-yard line.
He hit that fast right inside between the guard center gap. Got good blocking inside coming right at you. Watch a little bit of help up there by Copeland. Good job clearing the outside and the good cut back inside in that guard center gap. McGee with a nice run, but a nice block by Copeland.
Senquez Golson took a ride for about 12 yards or so before he finally got McGee down at the 21-yard line. McGee again. This time for 2 yards.
You know that LSU has now the longest winning streak in college football, with Oklahoma State having lost last night and Stanford having lost last weekend.
Well, this season for them has been beyond dominant. I mean, they're about to be 7-0 in the SEC for the first time in school history. If they hold on and win, which I think there's a pretty good chance they will, they'll be 11-0 to start a season for the first time since they won a championship back in 1958. Right up the middle goes Hilliard. Another true freshman. He's just shy of the 10-yard line. And you mentioned the numbers that they put up in SEC games, especially with their defense. It's just about as perfect as a season could be so far.
Yeah, you know, 50 points in 7 games is ridiculous, as was that last run by Hilliard. That offensive line, particularly the guards and center, doing a great job up front.
This time Hilliard picks up about 2 yards, just inside the 10, down to the 9, and up to 323 yards rushing tonight.
Yeah, the worst feeling defensively is when a team just lines up and runs the ball right down your throat.
And no one does that on LSU. Look at 4 touchdowns allowed in 7 SEC games.
4 touchdowns, total of 50 points allowed in 7 games. Unbelievable.
Well, they've played 40 quarters on defense. They've only allowed 9 touchdowns. The 10-yard line goes McGee. Might have lost a half yard. So out of 40 quarters, in 9 of those 40 quarters, has an opponent scored a touchdown against their defense. That's coming into tonight.
Yeah. Well,
John, tack on 2 more quarters.
John Chavis has a very, very dominant D. We know that. Hey, you know, it's clear. Mettenberg is in here to get some time because he is the presumptive quarterback next season for LSU.
3rd down and 10 from just outside the 10. They'll keep it on the ground with McGee. They lost 1.5 yards. Justin Smith first in the backfield for Ole Miss. And so Les Miles, for the first time tonight, will send out his field goal unit. So Drew Alamaugh from just inside the 20-yard line. A 29-yard attempt to try and tack on 3 more. And Alamaugh is good from 29 yards out. 52-3 with 9.5 minutes to go in the 4th quarter here in Oxford.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Hampton Hotels. At Hampton, we love having you here. And in part by the U.S. Postal Service. It's all in the mail.
It's a great scene. This is 9 o'clock last night. That's when they release the hounds and you're allowed to run into the Grove and set up your tent for the next day. You want to get your spot because this is the scene on Saturday. This is the payoff.
Wow. That is
stake
really
out
cool.
your real estate, and then you're all set to tailgate on a Saturday afternoon leading up to a whole game here at Ole Miss.
It's an incredible scene in the Grove. First time here for me going through there. It is really something. One of the great traditions in college football.
And the kids all get dressed up. The girls are in their dresses. The guys, as the weather gets a little colder like it is now, they wear their jackets and ties. And it's just a great scene. Razzle gets loose out to about the 28-yard line as we take a look at today's Good Hands play, brought to you by Allstate. And this, the first set of downs today offensively for Ole Miss. And it began early for that defense for LSU.
Yeah, Ron Brooks with a pick 6 set the tone and removed all the doubt as to how that defense was going to play tonight. With that pick 6, that put LSU up 7-0. He would go on to get a sack and a fumble recovery.
Brandon Bolden shoved into the backfield and lost about 5 or 6 yards. LeVar Edwards does it again as we check in with Reese.
Bob, time for a Sports Center right now presented by Discover Card. Baylor in Oklahoma. Many seeing that on ABC. Robert Griffin III to Tevin Reese, 69 yards. And what is going on this weekend? Number 5, Oklahoma's down 17-10 in the 2nd quarter. Georgia struggled all day against previously hapless Kentucky, but they win it to clinch the SEC East, 19-10 the final. Sports Center's on ESPN News.
All right, Reese, thanks very much. So we know where Georgia will be for the SEC championship game. Who will they play? As Barry Brunetti throws it out of bounds. It'll be 3rd down and long for Ole Miss. And it comes down, Rod Gilmore, to the matchup. And that is on deck for LSU as they will take on Arkansas.
Yeah, that'll be next week. LSU and Arkansas will settle the West. Georgia has the East. And congratulations to Mark Richt. After that 0-2 start, they wanted to hang him. They wanted to run him out of Athens. And now he's got his team in the SEC championship game and waiting on the winner of LSU Arkansas.
3rd down and 14 for Ole Miss. And Brunetti doing all he can to pick up about 5 yards. That sets up 4th down and long, and Houston Nutt will kick it away. Josh Downs made the stop on defense for LSU.
Well, the other part of the good news for LSU is that the 2 injuries that they had tonight to Reed in the secondary and Blue on the offense didn't appear to be very serious. It looks like they'll be at full strength when they take on Arkansas next week.
Heck of a punt by Tyler Campbell. Back at about the 19-yard line. It's Beckham. And Beckham's all the way to midfield before he's finally bumped out of bounds. They'll step aside. 52-3. Number 1 in the country. What kind of a year has it been for Ole Miss? It has been this kind of a year. Terrell Brown, defensive tackle, 6'10", 377 pounds. I mean, Terrell.
Oh, man.
They don't make a chair that folds.
Bad decision making. You got to have a bigger chair than that. You're just a couple of bites of catfish short of 400 pounds. That little plastic chair is not going to hold you.
That is a big man right there.
6'10", 377.
And a little chair.
Wow.
That's a bad combination. Kenny Hilliard, 11 more yards on the ground for LSU. Another first down with 7:38 to go. All right, paint me this picture. Arkansas beats LSU next week. And then, is there a chance, just a chance, if things broke right, we could have an Arkansas-Alabama BCS championship game?
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself.
I guess that's possible.
Well, maybe, but you're getting ahead of yourself.
Well,
so you would have to have Arkansas beat LSU,
right, and
then beat Georgia,
correct,
in the championship game, and you'd have to have Alabama wind up in the number 2 spot in the
which I think is possible.
Well, but voters might have a problem with an LSU team with 1 loss and an Alabama team with 1 loss, and putting Alabama ahead of LSU. When LSU went to Alabama and beat them head-to-head. I wouldn't do that. So I don't think it's that likely. I think most voters would say, you know what? If we're going to put a 1-loss team in there that didn't win their division, it's going to be LSU. It's not going to be Alabama.
But everybody's talking about a possible rematch between LSU and Alabama now. So they're already trying to put Alabama into the number 2 spot.
But that assumes Arkansas is not in the mix.
Second down and about 4. McGee for 3.5, so it'll be 3rd down and short for LSU. And coming up over the next couple of weeks, we will have Super Bowl quarterback MVPs on Monday Night Football. And Tyler Palko not part of that group, but Tom Brady is. They'll square off on this Monday night. And then a week from Monday, Giants, Saints, Eli Manning and Drew Brees. That's a big game in the NFC playoff race, especially when you start to think about who may not only win divisions, but get first-round buys and home playoff games and home field advantage throughout. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers right now look like they're going to run away with home field throughout. Terrence McGee. Oh, it's Mettenberger. What a bootleg fake. He gets to the edge, dives for the pylon. Is he in? Out of bounds at the 1-yard line. Zach Mettenberger on the bootleg all the way down to the 1. It'll be 1st and goal.
Well, did he step out? Because if he didn't step out, that football broke the plane. It got inside the flag. And that's what you're looking for. Does he step out?
He actually lost the football.
Yeah. So I don't know that he stepped out. Either he broke the plane or he fumbled the football. But I don't think he stepped out of bounds.
That ball goes out of bounds. That could be Ole Miss ball out at their own 20-yard line.
Yeah, he's not out. He's not out. He either broke the plane and it's a touchdown, or he fumbled the ball. He didn't have control of it before he crossed the line.
Either way, he's not down at the 1-yard line.
Yeah. I don't know how they get that.
And now they are going to go to the replay booth with 5:10 to go to see whether or not Mettenberger will be given a touchdown, or whether or not it could conceivably even be Ole Miss football. We'll step aside for just a moment. Well, it turns out they're not going to go to replay review. LSU actually called a timeout, which is great because it gives us a chance to show you that guy.
It's not Mardi Gras. Wrong time of the year, right?
It is Mardi Gras every day when you're in an LSU game.
Yeah, when you're undefeated and rolling towards the SEC title game, assuming you get by Arkansas, I guess you can dress any way you want to.
It is 1st and goal down at about the 1-yard line. It almost looks like LSU is lining up rather than to run up the score to take a knee with 5 minutes to go. They're going to give the ball back to Ole Miss, but it looks like they're simply going to, I guess, as classily as possible, not tack on 7 more points.
If that were me, and I'm playing for Ole Miss, that would tick me off. That would tick me off that you're saying, well, we're just going to roll it in on you guys, so we're not even going to try anymore. I would be ticked off.
You know, the funny part is, if they jump in and score another touchdown here, you're going to get writers around the country that'll write the next day about how unclassy LSU was to run up the score.
Well, I think you run the ball. I don't think you take a knee. I think you run the ball. Now,
well, that's all they've done in the second half.
Yeah.
They just run their way to a 52-3 lead.
Whatever happens, but taking a knee, I think, kind of rubs it in a little bit. I don't think Les Miles is intending to do that. I think he's trying to keep from putting points on the board. But as a defensive player, I'd be offended. Line up and come after me. Now, Ole Miss could have done something about it themselves before and stopped them, but they haven't. And they wouldn't be in this spot.
I've never seen a team sit on the football with 5 minutes to go.
Take a knee.
Ever. Victory formation with 5 minutes to go to give the ball back to the opposition.
If you don't want to score, then don't run the naked boot, you know, when you're up that far. I mean, just drive it inside and be done with it.
Well, all LSU has done for the most part here in the second half, outside of the bootleg they just ran with Mettenberger, has basically been run the ball up the middle.
Except for the bootleg that got him down there.
And then after the bootleg that got them down there, Les Miles decides to take a knee.
Now get this. They're going to keep taking a knee so that they don't even try a field goal. They're going to keep backing up and give the ball to Ole Miss. I've never seen this before.
And Mettenberger takes one more knee, and Ole Miss will take over on downs with 3 minutes to go.
Wow.
So from the 1 yard line, they take a knee back to the 13-yard line. Now, it's funny to hear a competitor who's been on the field before, and you played cornerback. You were a DB, so you're part potentially of a defense, and maybe could put yourself in the shoes of Ole Miss.
I would have been aggressively going after guys.
We'll talk more about it when we come back with Rod Gilmore. You wouldn't think that you would see a first in a 52-3 game, but other than seeing a Bayou Bengal leap over some hedges, we just saw a team at the 1 yard line with 5 minutes to go take a knee and hand the ball back over on downs to their opponent. Here's Enrique Davis picking up about 7 yards on first down. Just 3 points separate Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart from heading into the final race for the championship. And now they'll go head-to-head for NASCAR's ultimate prize. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup concludes with the Ford 400 at Homestead, Miami. Coverage begins tomorrow at 2 Eastern on ESPN.
Those guys won't take a knee tomorrow. They were talking about wrecking each other's mothers if they were driving cars. Maybe Houston Nutt ought to think about that.
Strong run by Enrique Davis out to the 26-yard line. I guess in a way, my point before was Les Miles was kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. There will be people around the country that if you run it in there will say, well, look, it was 52-3 and you scored again. At the same time, you're saying it's almost a less classy move to take a knee, and that kind of rubs it into the defense's face even more.
I understand what he's trying to do. I'm not saying he's trying to be classless about it. I think he gets no criticism if he just runs the football. I think every coach out there and every player would expect that's what you do. It's a competition. 5 minutes to go in the game. You don't start taking a knee. I think when you start taking a knee, now you start inviting people, you know, like me, to question it. And if I'm Houston Nutt, I'm not feeling too good about it right now. But you got to believe Les Miles is thinking, we're not going to put 60 on these guys. Let's not go there. We don't want to do that.
Enrique Davis picks up a yard. It'll be 3rd down and 1, and that'll take us inside of a minute to go. Well, if the score holds as it is, and it should, 52-3 is the largest margin of victory for either team in the history of this series. And this is the 100th meeting between the two teams.
13th straight SEC loss for Ole Miss and Houston Nutt.
I think that's the longest losing streak of any team in a major conference in college football inside their own conference, active right now. Third down at a yard. And stopped about a yard shy was Davis. So now it will be 4th down and about a half yard. Now they're going to give Ole Miss a first down.
Well, this is the last home game for Houston Nutt.
It's a tough senior night for the 14 seniors that are a part of this Ole Miss team.
He will get a hefty buyout. He might be a candidate elsewhere, or he might take a little time off.
Davis for about 3 yards, and that will do it. So LSU does exactly what they were supposed to do and what Oklahoma State could not do last night. And that is take an inferior opponent out. As Les Miles and Houston Nutt with a handshake at the end, 52-3 is your final. LSU wins it going away. Stay tuned for even more college football on ESPN coming up. Cal will take on number 9 Stanford in a game that Rod Gilmore won't be paying any attention to.
Just trying to make sure my daughter isn't in the stands in the student section with paint on.
It's the big game, and it's coming up soon. Right now, we'll head back to our Bristol studios and Reese Davis.